here's everything you might have missed in the Book of Boba Fett trailer. Boba Fett is back, and this time there might even be some disintegrations. After the former bounty hunter's transformation from Sarlacc snack into awesome ally during the Mandalorian second season, we're finally getting a sneak peek at what to expect from the highly anticipated Star Wars spin-off series. On Monday, Lucasfilm released the first trailer for this show, which premieres on Disney Plus on December 29th. And as teased by the post-credit scene of The Mandalorian Season 2's finale, the Book of Boba Fett picks up after Boba turned Bib Fortuna into Bib Miss Fortuna. Now it seems like we're in for some underworld intrigue, unexpected power struggles, and plenty of unmasked Boba Fett action as Robert Fett himself and Fennec Shand stake their claim on Tatooine. Now we're going to break down everything you might have missed in this trailer, including Easter eggs, hidden details, and what to expect from the series in just a moment. But if you prefer to go into this sight unseen, make like Han in Return of the Jedi and get Boba Fett as far away from you as possible. The trailer begins a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, specifically on Tatooine, where we see a BT-16 perimeter droid, better known as a brainwalker, skittering across the landscape. First appearing in Return of the Jedi, these creepy droids actually contain the brains of monks of the Bomar Order, whose monastery Jabba actually turned into his crime palace way back when. Once achieving enlightenment, these monks sought to enhance the power of their brains by isolating them from physical sensations of their bodies. And now they just kind of roam the landscape as these terrifying spider brains, so sure, why not? Now, as it crawls past Boba's palace, we hear our anti-hero negotiating with a mysterious person. We see what looks like a medical droid, or maybe like a combo with a pit droid that Pelimato had in The Mandalorian, handing Boba his helmet in what appears to be a medical bay on the top floor of the palace. Although Boba denies that he's a bounty hunter, a mysterious voice says otherwise. Indeed, in the Book of Boba Fett, it seems we'll be watching our hero transform from bounty hunter into veritable crime lord as he brings the Tatooine underworld to its knees. Now, the main thrust of this trailer appears to deal with two central conflicts. Boba Fett bringing other would-be crime lords and former Jabba captains to heel at the world's most uncomfortable dinner party, and Boba and Fennec parlaying with what appears to be an Ithorian crime lord and his cronies in another city on Tatooine. Now, whether this is a power grab or a negotiation is unclear, but it doesn't end well for the dudes in red. And speaking of that Ithorian, we see the alien holding court and granting Boba, Fennec, and their Gamorrean guards an audience in a sprawling city, presumably somewhere on Tatooine. Now, given the size and scope, my best guess would be Mon Espa, but I don't exactly remember that city being built into a giant crater like this one was. Flanked by a Twi'lek, the Ithorian's wearing a device that appears to be translating their speech in real time. And honestly, it kind of sounds like Pedro Pascal doing a Richard E. Grant impression with the faint rumbling of the Ithorian language underneath. So maybe it's a subtle cameo, or maybe we're just reading too much into this. Nah, couldn't be us. Anyway, what we're not reading too much into are the golden emblems around the Ithorian's neck. The main symbol matches the emblem seen on the Red Soldiers' uniforms later in the trailer. And that gives us the sense that these negotiations proceed about as smoothly as a glass of Luke Skywalker's green milk, which is pretty chunky. What's less clear, though, are the other emblems they're wearing. Do they indicate this individual's rank in whatever organization they're repping? Clearly, they belong to some kind of ruling body or crime syndicate, or else Boba probably wouldn't bother with parlaying with them and traveling to meet them on their turf. And they're also pretty well informed about recent changes in the political climate of Tatooine's underworld, so clearly they're in an important position here. Now, my personal headcanon is that is Moma Nadon, the Ithorian we saw in the Mos Eisley Cantina back in A New Hope. But I'm sure that hope will be dashed like so many Rendars on the rocky shores of reality. Next, we see an empty shot of the throne in Jabba's palace that Boba yeeted Bib Fortuna from. Each arm on this chair is flanked with carved Rancor heads, the massive carnivorous creature that Jabba kept in a pit below his palace court. Unfortunately, Luke happened to kill that one in Return of the Jedi, so Boba's gonna have to find someone that sells exotic animals if he wants to relive the not-so-good old days. But it doesn't exactly sound like Boba's interested in rehashing the past. He notes that while Jabba ruled with fear, he plans to rule with respect. And based on what we see in the trailer, that respect might be earned through a little bit of fear and a little bit of violence by bashing a couple of key skulls to really drive that point home. We see Boba, Fennec, and two Gamorrean guards squaring off against red armored troops rocking the same emblem as that Ithorian boss. And back at Boba Fett's palace, we see Fennec and Boba fetting a group of Jabba's former captains. Now, whether or not they work for Bib Fortuna as well is unclear, but now they're being asked to bend the knee and work for Boba. Just call him the Godfetter because he's going to make them an offer they can't refuse. And with Fennec Shand as his consigliere and main muscle, and at least 2 Gamorrean guards, I gotta say, Boba's a force to be reckoned with. At the table, we see a variety of aliens, including Trandoshans, the reptilian species that also gave us Bossk in Empire Strikes Back, Grinch-looking dudes known as Klatooinians, and the Aqualish, a species we first saw in A New Hope when Ponda Baba gave us a hand in demonstrating what Obi-Wan's actually capable of. Now, Boba's trying to usher in a new dawn on Tatooine, maybe one that can even compete with the Crimson Dawn. Because with the Hutt clan's power thoroughly diminished, there's an opportunity for a new organization to rise up. Boba's Boys, aka Robert Fettuccine's Tatooine Syndicani, or whatever they're actually gonna call it. Anyway, Boba proposes cooperation over conflict, uniting their forces to seize control of Tatooine's underworld for themselves. And speaking of cooperation, we see a brief shot of Tusken Raiders walking through a sandstorm. Now, we know that Boba spent some time among the Tusken Raiders following his dramatic escape from being digested by a Sarlacc for 1,000 years. Now, he was rocking a Gothy stick in The Mandalorian Season 2, so maybe he'll also forge a longer-lasting alliance with them. And perhaps this means that Star Wars will borrow yet another thing from Dune, and Boba will cultivate desert power to help overthrow his enemies.
Desert power.
And as we've seen teased by the Ithorians' forces, they're going to be facing some stiff competition, with major crime syndicates like the Crimson Dawn, the Pikes, the Black Sun, the Cremora, and so many others out there. Carving out a slice of this galactic pie might be easier said than done, especially because news about underworld upheavals travels awfully fast in the galaxy far, far away. And that could lead to frustrated evenings on the top floor of the palace where Boba and Fennec look out across the desert wistfully. So wistful in this shot. There's none more whist to be had. They are full of whist. We also see a brief shot of Fennec taking a knife out from inside her sniper rifle, which rules, inside the throne room, then whipping it at someone off screen. Now, this is most likely whoever decided to speak freely in Boba's presence, but more on that in just a moment. We see Boba, Fennec, and the Gamorrean guards walking into what appears to be a cantina, presumably to draw the attention of those 2 Twi'leks and, in turn, get an audience with the Ithorian. Or who knows, maybe Boba's trying to staff up his palace. Does this mean we're getting a Sice Noodles cameo as well? I sure hope so, because we should be so lucky. We also see a shot of Boba's iconic ship, the Slave One, flying across the desert landscape at night, and while it's entirely possible we'll venture off-planet in this show, something tells me most of the series is going to take place entirely on Tatooine, so we can keep the focus on the planet's underworld and the drama that unfolds. And speaking of drama, as one of the Grinchiest Klatooinians threatens to hypothetically kill Boba and take what they want, we see his helmet fall to the ground and New Republic credits spill out of it. Does he just keep them in there all the time? I have questions. Anyway, given that this takes place between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, the New Republic is currently the major governing body in this sector of the galaxy, so that explains why they'd use those credits. The helmet, though, falls by the wayside during a battle with those aforementioned forces of the Ithorian boss. They're all wielding electric weapons that appear to be a cross between the Electro Hammer from Jedi Fallen Order and the Z6 riot control baton the First Order used back in The Force Awakens. Now, I'm sure there's a simpler explanation or a weapon I'm not thinking of, but let's move on. Now, they're also wielding red shields that utilize what appears to be the same technology as the laser gates we saw back in The Phantom Menace. And if so, that's a really cool evolution of that particular technology. But also, if you look very closely in the background, they've scared a poor Jawa who just wants a nice egg during these trying times. Now, unfortunately, these goons have never seen Star Trek, or else they'd know they're basically red shirts. They are doomed to die as Fennec kicks their butts and Boba bashes in their skulls with their own weapons. And Boba and Fennec's willingness to use violence is really hammered home by Fennec's chilling words to Jabba's former captains. If you had spoken such insolence to Jabba, he'd have fed you to his menagerie. And while Boba does invite them to speak freely, speaking freely also comes with consequences, most likely in the form of Fennec whipping a knife across the room into your throat. Now, given that we don't see the Trandoshan boss in this final scene, I'm betting that he spoke a little too freely for his own good, and now he's free to bleed out on the floor, at least until Boba can put together a menagerie of his own. Anyway, folks, that is everything we spotted in the Book of Boba Fett trailer, and what a trailer it was. What we know for certain is that those elements of organized crime in the galaxy far, far away that we explored most meaningfully in Solo: A Star Wars Story, they're about to come to the forefront of the Star Wars universe once more when this series debuts on December 29th. And we'll be breaking down each and every piece of lore that comes our way, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, though, tell me, what did you think of this first trailer? Did you spot anything that we missed?
Nice shot. I was aiming for the other one.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.